Now, we're still celebrating the win by Banyana Banyana. The South African women's national football team has made history for all the right reasons at the FIFA Women's World Cup in New Zealand. Now, Banyana Banyana beat Italy 3-2 in Wellington to become the first South African national football team to reach the knockout stage at a FIFA World Cup. Now, earlier on the show, Oli spoke to superfan Mama Joy, who expressed her excitement. So now let's speak to someone else who's scheduled. We've interrupted the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Zizi Kodwa, who's in Cape Town actually watching that match by the Proteas, but we've asked him to step outside for us. Minister, thank you so much for your time. You must be elated.
I'm elated. As much as millions of South Africans are. This says a lot about women in football. And I think we have a responsibility, some of us are in leadership, maybe to reposition the issues about investment now in future going forward for women in football. And I think it says a lot about the leadership we have, those who are in authority of football in the country. To what an extent have we taken deliberate decisions to really invest in women in football? And I think an immediate step for me is about make sure that we have a professional league for women in the country. And that will make sure that as we prepare for the next World Cup, we develop, but also we focus on school sport and grassroots sport. For me, one of the most emotional moments, Mangete, when they played their first game, I visited two of their training sessions. They lost to Sweden. They cried the whole night. And they cried not because of anything, but because of patriotism. They felt like they disappointed the country. They disappointed me because I'm there. And these are roses that grew from the concrete, knowing where they come from. And I think it was very emotional to see them where they are today, given the history that I'm talking about, as these roses that grew from the concrete.
And, you know, that particular history that you mentioned is something that a lot of people say, if it's not resolved, it takes away from their ability to be able to focus on match preparation. But instead, they've got to now deal with a lot of politics.
My presence deliberately, when I went to attend their session, it was to acknowledge that perhaps what had happened, unfortunately, before they left on the 11th hour, it would have had some way in which it will defocus them from the main task at hand, which was the game. When I got there, I got a sense that having resolved and intervened on the issues, they left those issues behind. And I did say to the leadership, who also traveled with me to Auckland and Wellington, I hope that the leadership that has got authority of football in the country has learned a lot from this experience. We're not hoping to have this experience again. But of course, the reason it had to happen is a function or a lack of function of leadership. And the leadership must accept that those issues can't emerge suddenly or surface on the 11th hour at the doorstep of the tournament. They must have been anticipated, they must have been dealt with months before. I was quite disturbed, disappointed that there are actually other countries that could not resolve contractual issues before the tournament. But of course, in South Africa, we can't say we are the best in those countries. We have our own unique cases in terms of investment to women in sport that we need to focus and make sure that such issues, Magete, never are going to rise again. I hope that that lesson will run through those who are responsible authority of football in the country.
And of course, they've now made the knockout stages. Your message to them?
I'm thrilled, and I spoke to Desiree after the game. Of course, it was early hours to them because they were ready in the morning of the following day. I think it was correct, Mangete, that we sent them almost 2 weeks prior to the tournament to climatize, knowing the conditions. The way they played today, if people can see they knew and climatized to the conditions in Wellington. Especially when it's raining in that part of the world. It's quite a difficult pitch to play. And I think it's that perseverance on their part and dedication and commitment that made sure that they finished the game at 3-2. And I think it was a deliberate decision even on our part that we needed to make sure that they leave at the time they were meant to leave, because the issue that had surfaced suddenly at the time could have delayed their departure, and it could have had an impact in terms of them acclimatizing to the condition, given the difference of time with ourselves in New Zealand.
In about 10 seconds, we're letting you go to watch the Proteas playing tonight. How are you feeling? Your message to them?
I also had an opportunity to have something to say to them this evening. I'm quite excited. I think, given where we come from, and I think they are the favorites of the tournament. As they take New Zealand today, I look forward. it's a sold-out game as well. It's always packed when they play the favorite of the game. And I think as a country, I was quite moved. I mean, every time I come here, when I see young girls and women who are also influenced and inspired by what is happening in the country, both from the women's football as well as this netball, it says a lot about the role of sport in terms of nation building and social cohesion. What I see is the little girls and young women from schools were crying inspired and say, we want to see more. It means we must focus now. Our focus should be on school sport as a foundation and the grassroots sport.
And definitely that is the big focus. But let me thank you for your time and for allowing us to disrupt your schedule there. That was Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Zizi Kodwa.